Hey guys, it's Miss Ottman here. In this video, I will be showing you how to factor trinomials with a leading coefficient of 1. Stop this video if you have not downloaded the calculator or if you have not watched the first video labeled What is a Polynomial. Make sure you go back and watch the video showing how to download the calculator and go back and watch the first video that's labeled What is a Polynomial. Make sure you have a pen and paper or pencil so you can take notes. Let's dive right in. Given a quadratic function, x squared plus 5x plus 6, we can simplify this polynomial down to its factors. Remember, the first thing you want to do is make you a box. In the original problem, the first thing you see is x squared. That's the first thing you want to put in the first square of your box. The last thing you see in the constant that does not have a variable x next to it, you want to put that in your last box. Now what we're going to be trying to find is what needs to go in these two boxes right here. How we're going to do that is, for the constant, the last number in the problem, we're going to make a t-chart and we're going to find the factors of it. When I say factors, what two numbers will multiply together to give me 6. Always start with number 1. What number can I multiply to 1 that will give me 6? Well, 6. 1 times 6 will give me 6. Also, I like to check it as I go, because remember, whenever we're factoring, we're finding two numbers that multiply together to give me the last number, 6, but also two numbers that will add to give me the middle number. In this case, it would be 5. So let's go ahead and let's check it now. 1 times 6 is 6, but 1 plus 6 gives me 7. That doesn't equal 5, so we know that this cannot be the factors that we're looking for. Let's continue moving. Go to number 2 now. What times 2 will give me 6? Well, I know that 3 times 2 will give me 6, and let's do the exact same check. Well, 2 times 3 will give me 6. 2 times 3 equals 6, but also 2 plus 5. I'm sorry. Let me erase that. Made a mistake. 2 plus 3 will give me 5. So this must mean 2 and 3 are the factors that I need in this situation. It doesn't matter where you put the 2 or the 3 in the box. You can go in either spot. Put you 3x there. Put you a 2x here. And if you remember, the first thing you see, put a box around each first thing you see because you're going to pull it out, and I will explain what I mean by pull it out. The first thing I see in this first box is x, so I'm going to pull an x out here. I'm going to pull an x out up top. The first thing I see in this next box is 3, so I'm going to pull a 3 out here. And the last thing I see down here is going to be a 2, so I'm going to pull a 2 out here. It's a positive 3 and a positive 2 because the original symbols in the problem said that they were looking for a positive 6, two numbers that will add to give me a positive 6, but also, two numbers that will multiply to give me a positive 6, but will also add to give me a positive 5. So we know that our symbols are going to be addition symbols, add symbols. So now we have our two factors right here, and we can write our answer. It's x plus 3 times x plus 2. And that will be the answer. Simplify it down. Let's try another one. Let's say we're given this, let's change the color. Say we're given this problem x squared plus 4x plus 3. Pause the video and see if you can do it on your own. Okay? Remember guys, the first thing we do is we make a box. Remember, the first thing we see is x squared, so it's going to go in our first box. The last thing we see is 3. It's going to go in our last box. We're going to find the factors of the last number or the term that does not have a variable x next to it. So we're going to find the factors of 3, make a t-chart for 3, and we're going to start with 1. What can I multiply to 1 that will give me 3? Well, 3. 1 times 3 will equal 3, and also 1 plus 3 will give me 4. So 1 times 3 equals 3, but remember, we're looking for two numbers that will also add to give me that middle number. In this case, it will be 4, and it does. So 1 and 3 will be our factors. Again, we have 2 plus signs here, so we know that both of our factors are going to be positive. So it does not matter where you put the numbers in your box. I can put 1x here, put a 3x here, and then remember, put a box around the first thing you see and pull it out. Box around the first thing you see, pull it out. Box around the first thing you see, pull it out. We said earlier that we're going to have plus signs. So we're going to put a plus here and a plus here, and now I'm ready to write my answer. So our answer would be x plus 1 times x plus 3. All right. These are considered easy ones because you have 2 plus signs. Now let's say we're given one where you have a plus and a minus sign, meaning x squared plus 11x minus 26. In this case, you are going to need the multiplying integers rules. I'm going to jot that down here. Make sure you write it down. Basically means that a positive times a positive will give you a positive number. A negative times a negative will give you a positive number. And a positive times a negative will give you a negative. And this is the same thing, just written the other way. A negative times a positive will also give you a negative. I'm going to make a note here that these two are the same. You want to be sure that you jot down these rules right here. So remember, we're going to do this problem the exact same way. Start off by making a box. The first thing you see is x squared, so we're going to put x squared in the first box. The last thing you see is 26, but not only is it just 26, you have to take that minus sign to make that a negative 26. We will worry about the negative sign later. We're just going to worry about finding the factors of 26, so we're going to make a t-chart for 26, and we're going to start with number 1. What times the number 1 will give us 26? Well, 1 and 26. 1 times 26 will give us 26. Remember, I like to go ahead and check and see if these two numbers will add or subtract to give me that middle number. So what I mean again, 1 times 26 gives me 26. That checks out. 1 plus 26 will give me 27. That doesn't equal 11. Or 26 minus 1 will give me 25. That still doesn't equal 11. So we know that these are not the factors that we need. Let me erase this really quick. We're going to go on to number 2 now. Well, what times 2 will give us 26? If you don't know, you can always go and take 26 divided by 2. And if you go over to your calculator and you do 26 divided by 2 and hit enter, you will see that 26 divided by 2 is 13. So that means that 13 times 2 will equal 26. So we can go back over here and we know that 2 times 13 will give us 26. Now let's do our check again. 2 times 13 equals 26. 2 plus 13 equals 15. That doesn't equal 11, but let's do it the opposite way. 13 minus 2 will give us 11. So that lets us know right there that 2 and 13 will be our factors. Now, this is where you have to use your multiplying integers rules to figure out which one needs to be negative, positive. If they both need to be positive, they both need to be negative. Well, let's look at our number here. Our number is negative 26. On the erase button. We have a negative 26 right here. And so if we have a negative number, we probably need to use these two rules right here, because we're trying to get two numbers that will multiply that will give us a negative number. So we know that one of our numbers needs to be positive and one needs to be negative. Now, you want to go back and you want to look at the middle number here. Is that middle number negative or positive? Well, in this case, It's a positive 11 because of this plus sign right here. So we have a positive 11. So the bigger factor out of 13 and 2, in this case it would be 13, it needs to be positive. And so that means that the 2 needs to be negative. Again, remember, it doesn't matter where you put them in your box, just the biggest number in this case, since the middle number is positive, the biggest number needs to be positive. So we have a 13x, and our 2 needs to be negative, negative 2x. We do the exact same thing we did on the problems before. Put a box around the first thing you see and pull it out. Put a box around the first thing you see right here, pull out that 13. And right here, put a box around negative 2 and pull out that negative 2. So since we have a positive 13, we know that's going to be a plus. And since we have a negative 2, that's going to mean minus. So now I'm ready to write my answer. Let me get a little bit more space here. Erase the T-chart. Please take notes so you can refer back to it as you are doing your assignment for the week. Ready to write my answer now? X minus 2 times x plus 13. Let's do another one. Let's say we are given this trinomial, x squared plus 7x minus 30. Pause the video and see if you can work through it yourself first. Okay, remember the first thing we're supposed to do is make a box. First thing we see is x squared, so that's going to be what we're going to put in the first box. And the last thing we see is a negative 30. So I'm going to put negative 30 in the last box. Now we need to find the factors of 30. So I'm going to make a T-chart for 30. And we're going to start with the number 1. Well, what times 1 will give us 30? Well, 30 will. So 1 times 30 gives us 30. But 1 plus 30 is 31. That doesn't equal 7. And 30 minus 1 is 29. That still doesn't equal 7. So we know that these factors won't work. Let's continue on to number 2. Well, what times 2 will give me 30? Well, if you do 30 divided by 2, that will be 15. So 2 times 15 will give you 30. Now let's do our check again. 2 plus 15 is 17. That's not 7. 15 minus 2 is 13. Still not 7. So that means that 2 and 15 cannot be the factors. Now let's go on to 3. What times 3 will give us 30? Well, 10 will. 10 times 3 gives us 30. 10 times 3 gives us 30. 3 plus 10 is 13. But 10 minus 3 will give us 7. That equals 7. So that means that our factors must be 3 and 10. Now remember, you have to use your multiplying integers rule to see if both numbers need to be positive, both numbers need to be negative, or one negative or positive. We're looking for a negative 30. So in that case, the integers rule that we need to use will be plus a positive times a negative will give you a negative number. So one of our numbers needs to be positive and one of our numbers needs to be negative. If you look at our middle number here, positive 7x, that means that our biggest number out of 10 and 3 needs to be positive. So that means that 10 should be positive and our 3 should be negative. The exact same thing like before. Pull out the first thing you see, x and x. Pull out that 10, positive 10, and pull out that negative 3. And remember, you're ready to write your answer now. If you have a positive 10, that just means plus. If you have a negative 3, that's a minus. Just put a little box around it, and I'm ready to write my answer now. I'll write it down here. X minus 3 times x plus 10. All right, I'm going to do one more. Say we're given this quadratic function, x squared minus 7x plus 10. Pause this video and try to work through it before you go over it with me. First thing you're going to do is make a box. In the first box, put the first thing you see, which is x squared. the last box, put the last thing you see, which is a positive 10. Now from there, we have to find the factors of 10. So we're going to make a T-chart. And we're going to start with number 1. What times 1 will give us 10? Well, 10. 1 times 10 gives us 10. Now let's check it for the middle number. 1 times 10 gives us 10. 1 plus 10 will give us 11. That's not 7. 10 minus 1 will give us 9. That's not 7. So 1 and 10 cannot be the factors that we need. Okay? Let's go to number 2. What times 2 will give me 10? Well, 5 will. 2 times 5 equals 10. 2 plus 5 equals 7. Looks like I found my factors. I can stop there. Now we just have to figure out if we're going to be using 2 positive numbers, 2 negative numbers, or a positive and a negative. Remember, we have a positive 10, so we need to look back at our multiplying integers rule and look at the 2 things that says that will give you a positive number when multiplying. You can multiply a positive times a positive. That will give you a positive number. You can also multiply a negative times a negative to give you a positive number. Now, which one are we going to use? Well, we know that we need a positive and we know that we need a negative. So the positive and the positive, that can't work. So this one is not an option. So the only other option that we have to get a positive number is for both of our numbers to be negative. So that means that our 2 and our 5 needs to be negative. So go ahead and write negative 5x, negative 2x. And remember, the first thing you see, go ahead and pull out. I see an x. I see a negative 5. I'm going to pull that out. And I see a negative 2. I'm going to pull that out. With it being negative, that means that it's just going to be a minus sign. So now you're ready to write your answer. Parentheses, x minus 2 times x minus 5.